My name is Brandon. I'm a field guide here at Arathusa Safari Lodge. The problem facing rhinos that we're experiencing throughout Africa is poaching. Poaching is a huge problem. Poaching for the horn of the rhino, not for any other body parts other than the horn. It's mostly comes from a belief from certain cultures, Asian cultures or Far East cultures. They believe that the rhino horn has medicinal use, and unfortunately this culture has had this belief for thousands of years. So it's very, very difficult to educate people against that, and particularly because a rhino horn is really all based on its compressed hair, its keratin, which is exactly the same as your fingernail. So you have as much medicinal use from a rhino horn as you would from fingernail clippings. The scale is enormous. At the moment we're facing poaching that it is now exceeding the breeding rate of rhino. So there are more rhinos being poached than what rhinos are able to breed up. We are facing extinction. Within the next 12 to 15 years, potentially, there will be no rhinos in existence. One of the ways that we actually are trying to save the rhino is that we inject the horn, or rather saturate the horn with a metallic dye. Now that stuff you can pick up under airport scanners. Okay, so under X-ray machines and things like that, it will pick up because it's metallic base. All right, so and it's indestructible, so you cannot wash it out. And at the same time, with the dye, we've induced chemicals, toxins in the dye. So if people are using it medicinally, they're going to get very sick. Okay. And hopefully what that's going to do is that's going to change the mentality around rhino horn. So if people are using it medicinally and find, oh my gosh, you know, I'm actually getting worse, then they won't use it anymore. I personally believe that it is a good step in the right direction. I also believe that we should also maybe start looking at a more sustainable use for rhino horn, because I don't think that we necessarily will curb the problem unless we do proper education, which could take a lot of time. Okay. Unfortunately, again, I've emphasized this before, but you're fighting a culture that has had this belief for thousands of years. Okay, people don't change overnight. So I personally believe that we should also sustainably use rhino horn, as in breed rhinos for their horn. And what that would do is it would first of all drop the price of rhino horn. Okay, if you have a constant supply of rhino horn, it would drop the price. It would lower the demand for rhino, and hopefully that would save rhinos that are being poached from private reserves and things like that. But at the same time, while doing this, also start releasing stock of rhino horn that has been stockpiled. Of course, there's a lot of poaching grabs where rhino horn is being seized. Why not take those rhino horns and start releasing them on the market, drop the demand, drop the price of rhino horn, make it less interesting for people or for organized crime. You know, as soon as there's no real monetary value to it, then, you know, why do it? So while these steps are in play, you infuse your horns so that your wild rhinos are no longer of an interest to the poachers, okay, or no longer used to the poachers, and then put a demand or saturate the demand with what stockpiles we have, while building up a breeding base for future sustainable use of rhino horn. I believe in the ban of rhino horn at the moment. I do. I'm a very staunch supporter on that there shouldn't be a trade in rhino horn. That is illegal, the illegal trade in rhino horn, okay, because of exactly what they do to the rhinos. But if it's a sustainable trade, then by all means. I do. I think, again, it's a very positive step in the right direction to saving rhinos within the Greater Kruger. It should be implemented not just in the Greater Kruger, but every every area that has wild rhino. Again, until we find or we have properties that have a breeding base, very well policed properties that have a breeding base where we can actually work on the sustainable use or sustainable farming of rhino horn. Okay, but in the interim, our wild rhinos are being taken apart. So yes, I think it should be introduced in pretty much every wild area that we have left where there are still rhinos. Yes, I mean every little bit counts. Okay, anti-poaching, definitely. We need our anti-poachers. We need the guys that are on ground level doing the patrols. As much of that as we can. Other ideas, drones and things like that, yes, everything. I mean, it's turning into a military operation. That's how serious these guys are. And you must understand, they're facing poachers that have come from war-torn countries, often, okay, their bush law and bush knowledge is absolutely incredible, okay. They understand what anti-tracking is. So we need as much ground support as we possibly can, all right. But primarily, I think education is essentially what's going to save the rhino eventually. Okay. Unfortunately, again, emphasis on the fact that the cultures that we are fighting against have had this belief for thousands of years. All right. But every little bit counts. Well, if we're carrying on the way that we're going, there will not be a future for rhinos. Like I said, within the current rates of increase of poaching, next 12 to 15 years, potentially, there won't be any rhinos. But I don't believe that people are going to allow it to get that bad. I think that when people eventually start realizing how serious the situation is becoming, more and more people are going to come aboard. And the power of the people you can't beat.